Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Daily Football Roundup proudly brings to you the best damn podcast in the world, the 12-ounce Curl Route Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Current. You can find me on X or Twitter at Aaron Current. You can find my co-host Kyle on there at DF Roundup. And Corey is not on Twitter, so he doesn't know all of the new things that drop seconds before we go live every single week. What's going on, fellas?
Is it the Twitter or the X now? What is it?
It's the app formerly known as Twitter, I believe, is what they're calling it these days.
Sometimes when I get on there, I feel like I'm on X, just because I'm still trying to figure it out. But
yeah, it's tough to navigate, but I got on Twitter years ago because that was the first place that sports news broke. So it is what it is until there's something better. I don't see myself leaving Twitter or X or whatever. Kyle, I think we suck at this, dude. I think we suck.
Yeah. I contemplated last week. I think it was maybe Monday after the game. And I said, why am I doing a football podcast? When I went 0-6 in the 6-pack challenge last week, and our current Aaron, we didn't even have the same picks week 1, and we're both sitting at 3-9.
Yeah.
You went on a 15-minute rant last week about how the Chicago Bears suck. I'm gonna go on a 15-minute rant this week about how we suck.
Not really. Chip.
We've got to bounce back this week. I took a little bit of extra time to look at the 6-pack challenge this week, and what is it? Salt Bay. I'm just sprinkling it on this week because I'm going 6-0. I'm calling my shot. I'm lining it up, and it's a putt, and it's sunk.
Well, you can't do any worse than you did last week. So
there's nowhere to go but up. Nowhere to go but up. So 1-5. If that's what I go this week, I'll take it because it's better.
I'll take my bye week this week or something.
I mean, if you want, you could just pick how I pick. And I'm hoping to bat 500. That's what I'm shooting for. If I finish 3-3, let's get her done. We'll hop. I guess we just need to hop right into this. Oh my God, it's awful. So we started with Thursday night football. The Minnesota Vikings traveled to Philadelphia to play the Eagles, and it was a 6.5-point spread. I fell asleep. Philadelphia had the game well at hand. And then Minnesota decided, let's do a backdoor cover and let Aaron wake up on Friday with a sour taste in his mouth. And I sure appreciate it, Kirk Cousins and the crew. So, 34-28. Philadelphia wins, but they don't cover. Myself and Kyle had Philadelphia winning and covering because they were home, and you just expect good teams to play well and take advantage of home schedules against primetime Kirk, but they chose not to. Kyle, do you have any thoughts on how Philadelphia screwed us last week?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I saw that Philadelphia is on the 6-pack challenge this week too. So that's one game I spent a little bit of extra time on, but well in hand. And then a minute, some odd seconds left, we get a short touchdown from Kirk Cousins to TJ Hawkinson. It started off bad. We, first game of the week, and it ended sourly from there. So this is one that Aaron and I really should have won this and been 1-5, which would have put Corey at 2-4. But hey, looks like I don't think we owe Primetime Kirk.
See, Primetime Kirk came in clutch for me. That is what Primetime Kirk is right there, ladies and gentlemen. David, I got your back on this. I got your back on this one, buddy.
Oh, man. It's just, that's all I got.
I'll say this real quick about the game, though. Philadelphia is 2-0 and Minnesota's 0-2. I don't think Minnesota is an 0-2 team. Philly kind of looked a little interesting. I know they were kind of up a lot, but there was a couple things they couldn't do. And Jalen Hurts is going to be great, but that was not the best. Philadelphia's not going to win the NFC if they play like that.
Yeah, it seems like they're really missing Shane Steichen out there. He kind of was the straw that stirred the drink for Jalen Hurts, it seems, and they're winning. which I'll give them that. You know, you never apologize for wins, but it's not looking fantastic for them. They just kind of slogging it out and getting dubs, but the least they can do is cover. I mean, especially when they're up big and then they bless.
I think one of the most interesting things, since we're talking, well, you have the Vikings up. Justin
Mhm.
Jefferson leads the league in receivings, but doesn't have any receiving yards, but doesn't have any touchdowns, which I think is interesting considering Kirk Cousins has thrown 6. I think he's due this week, but just a fun little tidbit there.
Yeah,
As well.
and when they picked up Hawkinson last year, they kind of started forcing the ball to him, so that paid off for him. Let's move into Sunday. The Kansas City Chiefs traveled to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they won this game 17-9. I had Jacksonville covering the 3-point spread. Kyle had Jacksonville covering the 3-point spread. Corey had Kansas City covering the 3-point spread the other way. Yeah, I thought the weather in Florida and Kansas City traveling down there, and even though they had their pieces back, they only used them half the time, but it didn't matter. They still they did their thing. The Jacksonville defense looked pretty good. It was their offense. They got in the red zone several times and were unable to come away with points. And when you give Patrick Mahomes the chances to do what Patrick Mahomes does, I mean, he's the best quarterback on the planet right now, and he took advantage of that. Kyle, what do you think of this game?
Last week on the podcast, I not only took Jacksonville +3, but I said that they had a chance to win this game. And they did. They won the turnover battle. They did everything they needed to do on defense, but for whatever reason, Sunshine Trevor Lawrence just couldn't get it done. I was expecting this game to be an absolute shootout, probably 4 or 5 touchdowns one side and 4 or 5 on the other. And it just didn't happen. This one was kind of a snooze fest, to be honest, but Jacksonville had a chance late. I believe they needed 8 points to tie it up, and I think they turned the ball over on downs or something like that. I didn't watch too much of this game, but kind of let down, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what about you, Corey?
To me, this looked like a AFC North game in the snow. It was 9-17. Yeah. It was very weird. I lost quite a bit of money on this game because I bet the over. I bet all kinds of stuff, and at least we know. I guess Jacksonville found out Brandon McManus can't kick, so that's good. That might come up, later on. But I was not expecting 9-17. I think both teams will be fine, but I think if you play that game week 15 or in the playoffs, it's totally different.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected the low-scoring game between these two offenses, especially with Kelsey back. I mean, he was able to find Sky Moore, but the receiver position in Kansas City is still kind of an issue. But don't worry, they play the Chicago defense this week, so I'm sure they'll have their get right game, against my Bears. It is what it is. We'll move on. We're staying in the AFC, going north this time at 1:00 as well. The Baltimore Ravens traveled to Cincinnati for a divisional rival. Baltimore wins 27-24. I had Cincinnati covering, as did Kyle, and Corey had Baltimore covering the 3-point spread, and Baltimore wins outright. There might be a Joe Burrow problem in Cincinnati. He re-aggravated his calf. I feel like he can't get the amount of power for the downfield throws behind what he needs to make those downfield throws. And not to be selfish, but my fantasy team in one of my leagues is suffering because of it, as I had him stacked with Jamar Chase. So appreciate it, Joey B. He gets the big contract, and we'll see if he can live up to it. I'm sure Cincinnati fans hope he can. What did you think of this game, Kyle?
Again, surprised. I can't necessarily say I'm surprised by the outcome. Yeah, I took Cincinnati -3, thinking that they would win this game, but Joe Burrow's calf injury, questionable Monday night, and to think that Zach Taylor is a under the Sean McVay umbrella or coaching tree. And I feel like if Sean McVay coached this team, you would have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. Everybody would be open, and this team would be firing on all cylinders. But that offense just hasn't looked. And we could say it's the Joe Burrow injury. It probably is, but at the same token, this offense has not looked good so far.
To me, I think Baltimore, who's already the most hurt team besides maybe the Jets or something, is somehow they still look good. Zay Flowers, he's still not scratched the surface, I don't think. With this division going the way it's going, I think Aaron was the one to pick, or no, Kyle picked
I picked the Ravens.
Or you picked the Ravens, yeah.
Yeah.
You might be on to something here. This is going to be a very beat-up division all year. And if they all kind of came out kind of okay, but then had a lot of problems. So, I mean, I picked Baltimore solely for the fact of just I thought they would cover, not win. But,
right.
I mean, they got to play again in a few weeks, so we'll see. But
yeah, I tried to tell you guys about Zay Flowers. I liked him in college. I liked him in the draft, and getting Lamar Jackson some weapons as long as they can stay healthy. This Baltimore ball team is they're put together, man. That's one thing they're going to do is draft well for sure.
It's a long season, though.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, it's only week 2. It doesn't feel like it, especially for this team that we got coming up next. The Chicago Bears travel to Tampa Bay, and they lose this game by 10, 27-17. We all took the Bears to cover the 3-point spread, and I apologize for my team. They let us all down. As I said last week, I don't trust our defense. I'm going to try my best not to go on a rant here, fellas, but we dropped a pick 6 in the opening drive. We blocked a field goal and then allowed the holder to get it instead of us scooping and scoring that. We let's see, what else did we do? We did the peanut punch. Jalen Johnson hit it, and it bounced back about 20 yards, and Baker Mayfield dropped on it, and then just turned around and converted a 3rd and 17 or something. Every time they get to 3rd and long, they can't get to the quarterback, and someone ends up running wide open. And it's week 2, and I'm over it. I've been going over the tape, watching Justin Fields. He can't see the field. Apparently, he came out today and said he was playing robotic and said it might be coaching, and then tried to pull back those statements moments later and said, yeah, my take on the Fields comments. He tried to pull back those statements later and say he wasn't talking. They were taking his thing out of context. No, we didn't take your thing out of context. We knew as Bears fans, we watched what you did last year, and we could see a significant difference this year as you sit in the pocket and try to make something happen and then just get your head taken off. And so, I mean, if he said he's going to come out and play more free, and he says we'll see the difference. I sure hope so. And the latest news with the Bears is the defensive coordinator got let go or resigned. There's as much as speculation online. His attorney came out and said none of it was true that was coming out. It's nothing criminal. So he says it's health and family related or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter who's calling the defense. The head coach is a defensive guy, and his defense sucks. Then on offense, they can't see open guys, and our left tackle just went on IR. So good luck, Justin. Now you got a brand new guy covering your blind side, and we didn't have a great one to start with. It reminds me of the Trestman era, Kyle. How bad that was, where our offense was scoring, but we couldn't defend anybody. Well, now our offense isn't scoring, and we can't defend anybody, and it seems the coach has lost the locker room and the fan base. I'm not the only one saying Eberflus can't coach. Eberflus shouldn't be a head coach. This is going around Bears Twitter. It's week 2, but it feels like the end of the season already, and it sucks because for some reason I had my hopes up for this team and to see what Justin would do making that third year jump. But I don't know. What'd you guys think? Kyle, I'll start with you. What'd you think of this game?
Well, this week I'm taking Chicago plus 21. That's for sure.
All right.
I can't. I mean, one of the big reasons I took this game, honestly, was just to try to get behind Aaron, try to will the Bears to victory. But on the other side of the token, on the other side of the coin, is this the best wide receiver core that Baker Mayfield has played with, in your guys' opinion?
Oh yeah,
Mike Evans and Godwin,
Absolutely.
and better than OBJ and Jarvis Landry, because
yes.
Baker Mayfield's looking pretty good. That offense is looking pretty good. I don't
Mike
think
Evans has 1,000 yards in every season he's been in the league, which I think is 8 years, 9 years. The only other receiver to do that in their first decade in the NFL, a guy by the name of Jerry Rice. He was pretty good. So yeah,
right.
I would say this is Baker's best, and the overall team is good. The defense is good. Todd Bowles seems to be getting under his feet, and in that division, man, it's I mean, if he keeps putting it together and stays healthy, look out. I mean, I liked Baker in Cleveland until he got injured. Really, that's when they started to kind of push him out of there. And but yeah, I definitely like him and the Buccaneers. I mean, I saw a lot on Sunday that I liked. Go ahead, Corey.
You mean MVP Baker right now? Who the fuck? So you two picked the Saints. I picked the Panthers. I'm not giving up just yet. But the Buccaneers and the Falcons are looking pretty good right now.
Yeah.
And like we just said, this is Baker's best wide receiver core, I think, by far. So I didn't think Tampa was that good. That's why I picked Chicago, because I didn't think Chicago was that bad.
Same.
Now, yeah, I might. What's the spread? Is it plus 14? Or is it worse than that?
It was 12.5 the last time I looked. I didn't put it on the 6-pack challenge this week because I didn't want to take up a big chunk of the show talking about one game again.
I might throw a 5-ski on that just for the hell of it, just to see if
the Bears money line. You're $1 million millionaire after they win.
Get
a
putting $5 victory for the Chicago plus 19 or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. Well, one of two things are going to happen. They're either going to step up to the plate and Justin Fields is going to say, "See, it was my coach," or they're going to crumble. And I don't know. There's a history of the Bears doing the latter.
I bet DJ Moore after week 2 is like, shit.
He had a good game. He had 100 yards and a touchdown, and he was open on a couple other plays and clapping at Justin Fields, and he couldn't see him or hear him. I don't know what he was seeing out there, but yeah, I mean, DJ Moore had a pretty good game. They went to him early. He had 6 catches on 9 targets. You know, not a bad game, but
there was other teams you could go to. Just saying.
Well, I mean, Carolina could sure use him. Our next game, we'll stay with the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers traveled to Atlanta and lost 25-24. We all had Green Bay covering the 1.5-point spread. I didn't get to watch most of this game because I was watching the Bears, and then when that got out of hand, I watched the Bengals, and then when that looked ugly, I watched Kansas City. So I didn't watch a lot of this game. I just saw highlights, but Bijan Robinson, as advertised, he looks like the real deal. I mean, it's just he does it all, and they need him to because let's be honest, Desmond Ridder, I don't know if he is the guy or not. But I mean, if they keep winning games, they might have trouble finding a quarterback that low in the first round next year. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta wins at home and doing the Dirty Bird special on your Packers, Kyle. What do you think of that game?
I'm not going to pull an Aaron and berate my team for losing a game. Desmond Ridder is not it. He did not look good on Sunday against the Packers. This is a game that we were without Christian Watson and Aaron Jones and David Bakhtiari, and we lost Elton Jenkins halfway through the game. And Jaden Reed had 2 touchdowns. Dontavian Wicks had a touchdown as well. And AJ Dillon just really looked like dog shit running the ball. It was not good. This team, if we would have had Aaron Jones in this game, we would have been fine. But to blow a 12-point lead with 9 minutes left in the fourth, it's insane. Jordan Love's the only quarterback in the NFL right now with 6 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. but he doesn't have the yards to back him up right now.
Mhm.
I think hopefully getting Watson back can help take get some over the top stuff going, some deep shots.
Right.
But if we're gonna lose the Falcons, give up 12 points in the last 9 minutes, yeah, not good.
Well,
Hmm.
so I didn't think Desmond Ridder looked as bad as I think he looked a lot better. I think that right now you'd rather have Desmond Ridder than Justin Fields if we're going to do that type of game. And if you look at Atlanta's schedule, which I guess we did not when we were picking this division, they could win 11 or 12 games. Just looking based on what we've seen the first 2 weeks of how they're working and who they're stacking up against, including that division. As far as the Packers go, like Aaron Jones was out. You talked about all that. The Packers will be okay, I think. I don't think it's the end of the world to lose to the now very talented Atlanta Falcons, who are starting to get some stuff together. They're not the worst team in the league to lose to.
Yeah.
But it's not good to blow a 12-point lead.
Well, no, that part does suck, yes, but
so
I like the head coach down in Atlanta too, Arthur Smith. He draws up some good stuff and takes advantage of his puts his players in good positions to win. They finally have the talent to show his coaching ability, and we'll see if they can put it together. I mean, if I'm wrong about that division, I'm wrong, but I still think the Saints are the best team in that division, regardless of what the standings are in it. Head-to-head matchups, I'll give me the Saints still, but
it's early.
Yeah, we'll move on to our final game in the six-pack challenge. Monday Night Football. They had a doubleheader. One was the Saints beating the Panthers. The other was the Cleveland Browns traveling to Pittsburgh, and they lose 26-22. We all had Cleveland in this game, and if not for a Nick Chubb horrific injury, I feel pretty good about them winning that ball game. But without Nick Chubb long term, Deshaun Watson, fellas, I don't know if he's got it anymore. He doesn't look great. He may be seeing ghosts in the pocket. He turns the ball over. The first play of the game was a pick six, and I believe Pittsburgh had a blocked field goal or something for a touchdown in this game as well. So really, this is about the Pittsburgh defense more than it is the Cleveland offense. But without Nick Chubb carrying that load, Deshaun Watson, it was your turn to put up or shut up for that contract that the Cleveland Browns fully guaranteed you, and it ain't looking so good for them. And it sucks for Chubb because he's a great back. I mean, he's one of the top, I'd say top 5 running back easy in the league, and that really hurts the Browns. Go ahead, Kyle.
If Nick Chubb doesn't go down, this game turns out obviously a whole lot different. For them to, first of all, that knee injury was brutal.
Oh, it was terrible.
Awful. Yeah, bad. And it's the same knee that he's blown out before at Georgia too. So we'll see if he's even able to, take another snap in the NFL, but not good. But if he stays in that game, it's a completely different game. They can ground and pound, and they would have been fine. And when we talk about Deshaun Watson not looking good, what does he care? He's got a fully guaranteed contract. He could go out there and throw 30 interceptions a year, and he's going to get paid what he's going to get paid. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's going to make all of that money no matter how he plays. Having a year, 2 years out of the NFL, or it was a year and a half that he didn't play.
Some change, yeah.
Years some change. He played half the year last year. He's off to a slow start this year, but it doesn't mean that he can't turn it around. He's got a lot of things that he needs to fix because it didn't look good. But that Steelers defense is and always has been a scary defense. It doesn't seem like it matters who is in that defense. They are scary good. But yeah, this game would have turned out differently had Nick Chubb not gone down.
So I would argue that not fantasy purposes, but in real life, that Chubb is top 2 or 3. And as much as that's going to probably hurt them throughout the season, Jerome Ford went off and ran for 106 yards. So they were going to do the same thing, only maybe Chubb would have had 150 yards or something. But for the fact that the Steelers won, without Deontay Johnson, and basically Freiermuth wasn't even in existence. This shows how the offense it's not as good as it should be, but that defense also helping them. So the Nick Chubb thing hurts. I was all about Deshaun last week, and now I'm he's going to have to do a little bit more to, especially in this division, to get going. But that was a great win for Pittsburgh, and even though they lost, how long is Deontay out?
I think he went on the IR, so he's out at least 4 weeks.
Okay, that does hurt, but I mean Pickens went off. He had 100 and some change, I think, and Freiermuth is not going to not be in existence. I mean he's there, so he's going to have to get the ball too. I still believe Najee Harris is a good running back despite that offensive line, and Jaylen Warren is a great backup too. So if you can get that O-line just in sync a little bit more ground and pound, kind of lay off for Pickett, and then he can do some play action or something like that. Maybe depending what we've seen with this division so far, it might work, at least for that division anyway.
Yeah, but I think. Sorry, Aaron. I think one of the biggest things though with Jerome Ford is most of his yards came on that one play. If you take what was it, a 70-yard run?
Yeah,
it was a long run. So other than that, it's not like he flashed. He didn't have real big, great runs, which I don't think you necessarily need, but I think I still want to see more from Jerome Ford than what we've seen so far. Yeah, that big run he had was great, but can he continue to put up yards like he did against the Steelers?
Well, there's a reason why they went out and signed Kareem Hunt today. I mean, Kareem Hunt's coming back in. He knows the offense. He's going to step right in. They basically get him at a discounted price of what they had him at last year. And, I like Kareem Hunt a lot. I felt like I was surprised he was still sitting on the street, honestly. But for him to go in there to an offense he already knows, I don't know if he's going to take the RB1 role or if they're going to give it to Ford and let him kind of back him up the way he did Chubb. But that'll be interesting to watch. As far as this division, I still don't trust the Pittsburgh offensive line, but their defense. I mean, they still got TJ Watt coming off the edge, who's a top 3 rusher in the NFL. And if he stays healthy, they win a lot of ball games when he's on the field. So it's hard to argue against what he brings to that team and what he means to the Steelers and that organization. But we'll move into this week now.
Real quick. I got to say something about the other Monday night game, the Panthers and the Saints. Did anybody else notice how much Miles Sanders was pushing Bryce Young to the proper position? Like, did anybody else see that?
I saw a clip of it. That he stood behind the guard and Miles Sanders had to push him over, but I didn't watch too much of that game. I was watching more so the Browns versus the Steelers.
I watched quite a bit of it, and like there was more of that going on than just that one like bad clip. And that was kind of concerning to me because like as I was watching some of it, he looked kind of scared. Well, I mean, he also looks really small there, but like he just looked really, really scared. And that's not good.
I think the Panthers are in trouble, fellas, and I mean, this year's draft class at quarterback, I wasn't a huge fan of it. That was the whole reason why I was hoping the Bears traded back, because I didn't think we needed a quarterback, and I liked Justin better than the 4 or 5 guys that they had in this year's draft. Bryce Young is on a crash course learning these dudes are for real in the league. You may have played in the SEC, but this is still a whole nother league. These guys are bigger, stronger, and faster, both in the secondary and on the D line. And I don't know if he makes it through the season, guys. I know that was my first thought when we got the first pick, and there were some Bears fans who were like, let's go get Bryce Young. I was like, if he takes the hits that Justin took last year, he's not getting up. He's 5'9", $180, $190 on a good day.
Yeah.
I just like I said, Carolina could sure use DJ Moore out there. They have a bunch of inexperience at wide receiver. The offensive line doesn't look great. The defense is doing better than I expected from Carolina. But and maybe the Bears end up with the first 2 picks this year. I don't know.
One thing that did happen last night or Monday night in that game is Andy Dalton came out for almost 2 plays. 2 short yardage situations. He came out. I think the offensive line jumped early on one, and then another one was a pitch to Miles Sanders. But they're not even having Bryce Young out there on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 to do what the Eagles do with Jalen Hurts. They're putting Andy Dalton in there instead to make sure that their quarterback doesn't get hurt on those plays.
Yeah. And I like Frank Reich. I think it was a good hire for them. I'm not a fan of Bryce Young. I don't know if he's going to work out in the league with his size. I guess I kind of jumped the gun trying to go to this week's games. Were there any other games that you guys wanted to talk about? Honestly, Sunday, I watched the Bears. Then the afternoon window hit. The afternoon window hit. I watched San Francisco and LA Rams. That was a fun game to watch. And boy, it just broke my heart to watch both of those offenses playing really well, looking freaking organized. Both the defenses playing pretty well. It was a good, hard-fought game with showing great coaching on both sides and good roster building. Both those rosters are freaking stacked. That was an NFC West showdown that was really fun to watch. Brock Purdy looks like the real deal. And again, as a Bears fan, it just broke my heart when I saw, because you see a lot of off coverages in the NFL, and I watched Matt Stafford. He won't even say anything. He'll just look. And Puka Nacua already knows I'm running a slant here. If they're going to back off me, I'm going to run a slant. If they're going to play up, I'm running a double move on them. And Puka Nacua broke a record that has stood in this NFL the first 2 games of an 15, NFL season. Yeah. The most catches, I think. When I was watching, he was up to 21 in his first 2 games. And that wasn't even at the end of the game. So that was –
I guess 30.
Yeah.
And they get cut back in a couple weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Real quick for me, Dallas's defense is insane, and Micah Parsons is the greatest. He's the best defensive player. I don't care what J.J. Watt said about his brother. Micah Parsons will be the decoy at least this year. Might have a shot at MVP.
Wow.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of places or a few places saying that he could potentially be in that conversation. Puka Nacua has 25 catches. 2 games that really stuck out to me was, and it's crazy to even say it, but Giants and Cardinals, with the comeback that the Giants had. I don't know if the Cardinals organization just said, "Hold on, what are we doing? Why are we up so much?
Whoa.
What are we doing? Let the Giants come back here." But also the last bit of that Commanders Denver game, Russell Wilson with a Hail Mary pass to have a chance to force overtime, and then through that 2-point conversion that I think there was probably some pass interference that didn't get called on there, but
don't take that away from Washington.
that was incredible to watch, and the NFC East is 7-1 right now.
Yeah,
that's a 2-0 Washington, 2-0 Dallas, 2-0 Philly, and 1-1 New York Giants.
Well, together to get that one loss. So, I mean, when Dallas beat.
Yeah.
Well,
the crazy thing about that game was the Giants, I think halftime, maybe not all the way up to halftime, they had been outscored in the season 60-0. The Cardinals, I mean, we all know Dallas beat them 40-0 in week 1, and the Cardinals were up 20-0 on this Giants team. Good kudos to them for coming back, but New York media, they'll tear you apart if you're not. And I know I complain about Chicago a lot, but New York, they've got a long history of underachieving as well. Other than the Yankees back in the 90s, I mean, you've got the Mets throwing a bunch of money at players and not working out this year. You got the Jets bringing in Rodgers, and then he gets hurt on the 4th snap of a Jets career, and the Giants throwing money at Daniel Jones for 4 years and bringing Saquon back for 1 year, and now he's hurt, probably not playing tomorrow. It's tough up there in New York, and they'll let you hear about it if they're not happy with you. That's for sure. Anything else from last week, or are you guys ready to break down this week's games.
I'm ready to redeem myself.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I will just tell everyone, usually we do the Thursday night game, but this Thursday night game is the New York Giants we just mentioned. They're going up against the San Francisco 49ers. It's a 10-point spread. I don't know if I got to say much more than that, other than I think San Francisco covers it easily. I don't think it's going to be close at all. Do you guys want to talk about that before we get into the six-pack challenge, or just leave it at that?
I guess my only thing would be that Ayuk probably won't play because his shoulder's still messed up a little bit and that quick turnaround. So he might not be out there, but other than that, I think San Fran still rolls.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 10-point. San Francisco right now is -10, which already tells you, it's probably not going to be a very fun game to watch unless you like watching one team beat up on the other. It's probably not going to be good for the Giants, I don't think.
They probably have some cool uniforms. That's usually Thursdays when they pull out their cool uniforms, but that's about it in that game. So we'll skip straight into Sunday for our six-pack challenge, the first game of the week. Sunday at 1:00, the New England Patriots traveling to New York to play those aforementioned Jets. The Jets are 2.5-point home dogs. The over-under in this game is 36.5. The money line is New England -142 and New York Jets +120. I'll go first, and then I'll pass to Corey and let him talk a little about his Pats, and then and Kyle, I'll let you finish this up. I'm going to take New England in this, and I think it really comes down. This is going to be a defensive battle. When Belichick played Zach Wilson last year, Zach Wilson looked if he thought he looked bad in other games, Belichick ate his ass up. I mean, it almost looked fun to him out there to tinker with his defensive scheme against Zach Wilson, and I don't see that changing much. Zach Wilson still struggles to read zone coverages, and I'm sure Belichick knows that. And with Matt Judon coming off the edge, I just say a prayer for Zach Wilson Saturday night before you go to bed, because you got a 37-year-old left tackle that Matt Judon's licking his chops to go up against. Corey, break down this game for me, please.
First of all, I love the uniforms from them in Miami. Those are my favorite uniforms that the Patriots has. I know that the Patriots have been doing a lot of things wrong and we're not that good, but to have two games lost to two good teams on two heartbreaking plays so far this year, that's the best 0-2 you could ask for, in my opinion. The over-under 36 is interesting. I'm taking the Patriots. Even though that defensive line for the Jets is awesome, I can totally see this being one of those games where Mac Jones only throws the ball 4 times. And we just run the ball like 40 times somehow. Because you wear them down and you'll just that's the Patriot way and that's the Belichick way. So I think they also Judon has 2 sacks at least. So
go ahead, Kyle.
It's funny you say, Corey, that Mac Jones is only going to drop back 4 times when he's dropped back 96 times so far this year. Currently leads the league with passing attempts. This is not a run-first team like we saw last year. Ramondre Stevenson has 75 yards rushing this year. Zeke, obviously, he's not Zeke like we've seen in the past or anything like that. He doesn't look the greatest either. But we're talking about the goddamn Jets, right? It's week 1. I think that they still had that momentum and that high and just kind of the energy of Aaron Rodgers. 9-11 New York, Aaron Rodgers, even though they only had him for 4 plays, I think that really helped them win that game. And they just got the doors blown off by Dallas last week. If the Jets defense doesn't come to play week in and week out, this team will not be able to compete for anything. But I mean, like Corey said, 2 heartbreaks, 2 really close games against 2 good teams. I'm riding New England -2.5 this week.
Oh God, you're all going with me. That's not good.
Should I just let Corey pick first and then we'll just copy on it?
We can't catch up that way. We can't catch up.
That's true. The next game we'll get into is also Sunday at 1:00. The Denver Broncos are traveling to Miami. Miami, I believe this is their home opener. They spent the first 2 weeks on the road. Miami is a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under is 48. The money line for Denver is plus 230, and for Miami, it's minus 285. I'll go first. I picked Miami to win this to win the AFC East, and they came out and showed out, and they look great. Their head coach looks fantastic. He's probably about one of if it wasn't for Kyle Shanahan existing, he would be my favorite head coach in the NFL. They brought Vic Fangio in to run the defense, and boy, has he ever! I still miss that guy in Chicago. So give me Miami minus 6.5. And I just picked this game so I could talk about Miami because I mean they could be AFC champions. You know, they're that good of a team on both sides of the ball. As long as Tua can stay healthy, and Tua's reading the field well, he's getting the ball out of his hands, getting it to his playmakers. Give me Miami by 1,000. Go ahead, Corey.
The minus 6.5, even with the potential of Waddle and or Hill not playing, is laughable to me. I thought this would be like 8 or 9.5. Yeah, Fangs. This is also a revenge game for Fangs a little bit, so I'm picking Miami by like they'll probably win it by like 12 or 13 something.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that really kind of makes me chuckle with the Denver Broncos is Sean Payton came in and immediately drug Nathaniel Hackett through the mud about how he didn't know how to coach a game, something about time management, yada, yada, yada. And the Broncos are the slowest team from play clockwise. They are not able to get the ball snapped quickly. And Sean Payton even said, you know, we're going to have to
have to go to wristbands.
That's what they're saying. And Russell Wilson hadn't been one to wear wristbands in the past. But he said, we've got to change some things. We got to, dumb it down a little bit. But they're a slow offensive team when it comes to getting that ball off. So it's just kind of made me laugh about that, especially the way he drug Hackett through the mud. I'm not impressed by the Denver Broncos. I'm not impressed at all by them. To let the Washington Commanders, who I'm not taking anything away from the Commanders, but they're not a great team either. To let them come back, I think down 12, 13, 14 points and win that game, not great. Miami has looked really good this year. Miami has looked really, really good in the 2 games that they have played. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they have a run game a little bit. As long as Mostert can stay healthy, they can run the ball too. So yeah, give me Miami minus 6.5.
And one more thing too, as far as Denver goes, yeah, that offense is a little weird, and they had and they had like a few people go down, but that defense is the worst, probably one of the worst defenses in the league, and it's not supposed to be. I don't know what happened there, but that defense, you could argue that defense is the main problem of Denver right now, not Russell Wilson.
Yeah, they got one of the best corners in the league. Pass rushers. They got all the pieces.
But it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Well, Kareem Jackson, who plays for the Broncos as well, 2 weeks back to back has been flagged for targeting or helmet to helmet hits or something like that. So that's also not good.
Yeah. Tempers start to flare and you start making dumb penalties. Sunday, also at 1:00, you have New Orleans traveling to Green Bay. This is Green Bay's home opener, correct, Kyle?
Yep.
So they started in Chicago, went to Atlanta, and now they get to come home. They're 2-point favorites against New Orleans. The over-under is 43. The money line for New Orleans is plus 105, and for Green Bay is minus 125. I kind of am not a fan of picking this so early in the week, but we do the show when we do the show. I'd like to know some Aaron Jones news, some Christian Watson news, because you never know with a hamstring. Sometimes those things will pop up on Friday, and all of a sudden you're not good to go, So for those reasons, with the injuries and trying to make up room in the standings, I'm going to go New Orleans plus 2, possibly even the money line. Now, if those guys are healthy, it makes it a little more difficult, but I do like New Orleans. As I said, I picked them to win the division, and I like Derek Carr. I like everything about the Saints. It would be the only thing that would make it even better is if this was in New Orleans because it's crazy down there in the dome. But they do got to travel to Green Bay, which I mean it's not cold yet, so you don't have that, which doesn't help you out. But for all those reasons, give me New Orleans +2. Go ahead, Corey.
Actually, go ahead, Kyle. I want to hear him on this.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Sure. So, I mean, I kind of already alluded to it earlier. Without Aaron Jones, without Christian Watson, without David Bakhtiari, and we lost Elton Jenkins last week against Atlanta. LaFleur was asked in his interview if the turf had anything to do with David Bakhtiari not playing against Atlanta because he played week 1. And LaFleur decided, hey, I'm not going to comment on that. His knee had some swelling, decided not to play him. I fully expect David Bakhtiari to play in Green Bay.
Yep.
He'll be back this week. But losing Elton Jenkins, who, in my opinion, is an all-pro offensive guard, it's going to be hard to not play with him. But Green Bay's great at finding these offensive linemen and turning them into gems. We've got 2 guys who played for us in the past who are Hall of Fame eligible this year as well. And I can't not pick Green Bay no matter what. I'm a Packers fan. I'm picking with my heart instead of my head. But maybe that'll help me get some wins this week. I'm hoping to have Aaron Jones back this week, but he was not practicing today. I think getting Christian Watson back would be huge for Green Bay. And not to take anything away from New Orleans, but week 1 they lost to New Orleans lost to Tennessee, I believe. Oh, they beat Tennessee. I'm sorry. And then week 2 they lost to week 1 they lost to Tennessee. Week 2 they beat Carolina. I believe. Yeah. I believe they're 1-1. And there's been some flashes for that Saints offense. Derek Carr has looked good. But they also have injuries on their side of the ball too.
New Orleans won by 1.
Are they 2-0?
Yeah, that was the field goal game for Tennessee. 16-15.
They lost. Okay. Well, they'll be 2-1 next week. I'm taking Green Bay -2. I don't know. I guess Tony Jones is going to get the start for New Orleans at running back, unless Kendre Miller comes back. So we'll see what that's all about. But I trust my corners enough to shut down these wide receivers, and to walk out of Green Bay or Lambeau with the win this weekend. And -2, I'm taking Green Bay.
Yeah. It'll be fun to watch Chris Olave against Jair Alexander jousting each other. I know Jair, I believe he's following the wide receiver ones this year. I know he did it last year, and he kind of complained about it. So that'll be fun to see him.
Yeah, they put him late last year. They put him up against Justin Jefferson, and he completely shut Justin Jefferson down.
Yeah.
Go, Pack, go. It's happening. The Packers, hey, I used to have some ties to the Green Bay. I'm part owner, as everybody knows, just like everybody else is. I think home opener at Lambeau is a different scene than most places in the NFL. Even without Aaron Jones, New Orleans didn't have a running game until next week either. So I think -2. I'm actually going to hammer the over on this because it's not snowing. So I'm taking Green Bay by like 5 or 6 at least.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll see if I make up room in the standings there. The next game, Sunday at 1:00, the LA Chargers travel to Minnesota. Minnesota's favored by a point. The over/under is 54. The money line for both teams is -110. Vegas doesn't know what to do with this. And honestly, I'm not sure either. Picked this game because I was surprised. I believe these are both winless teams, and both of these teams should not be winless. But I like the weapons that the Chargers have on offense. I don't know if I trust their coach, but they have the pieces on defense. You got a Bosa and a Mack on the edge. You got to figure it out. You paid J.C. Jackson a ton of money to come in and be your number one corner. He's got to prove his money, and you're going against the best receiver in the league who, Kyle, you mentioned earlier, he has all these yards and catches, but he has no touchdowns, and that probably changes. It's difficult to shut him completely down, But I'm going Chargers +1. I think they go into Minnesota, they get the win, and you start to see Minnesota. I don't want to say fall apart, but maybe questions about Kirk and if they're going to keep him and what they're going to do in that situation. There's some other teams that could use a quarterback, and maybe we see him shipped off around the trade deadline. So I'm going to go Chargers +1. Go ahead, Corey.
I don't think the Vikings are milling anything in right now. Kirk's going to stay there. I hate to have to pick this game. I'm going to take the Vikings solely for the fact that this is a 10 o'clock game for the Chargers. They're going to it's a 11 o'clock game, I guess. But Minnesota is not that bad. They're just not. And the Chargers, who have more talent on offense, you could argue, than any team, it's Brandon's fault. It's the coach's fault. It's not the team's fault. He's not a good coach. And I think just solely for the fact that Chargers that Minnesota's going to win. I do like the over-under 54, though. That's interesting.
It's really high, but both these offenses are fun and both these defenses suck. So it makes sense that it's really high.
Also, Cam Akers was traded to the Vikings today, too, so that's kind of interesting.
I don't think that really is. I mean, the Vikings don't have a run game. And right now, I don't know that the Chargers really do either. I'm not really sure what Josh Kelly's stats looked like last week, but I know him and Eckler had a lot of yards week 1, and Eckler didn't play last week. Eckler's probably not playing this week either.
Is he going to play at all?
I don't think so, and I think it puts their run games on kind of equal levels. So like Aaron said, I got to look at the weapons, and one of the biggest weapon that I'm looking at this week is Kirk Cousins. The guy's leading the league right now in passing yards. He's tied for the league lead in passing touchdowns. He is just absolutely slinging the rock this year. And I have a feeling that Kirk Cousins is going to come out after this week and he's going to say, "You like that?" Because I got Minnesota winning this game, and I'm taking them with the -1.
Well, speaking of which, did you guys, before we move off this game, did you guys see the KFC commercial with Kirk Cousins?
No, I have not.
Oh, well, he did a KFC commercial, Corey, and they were talking about how good the chicken was, and he said the finger licking, something to the effect of the finger licking taste makes the receivers work harder for the ball. And
okay,
a lot of people question the usage of a Caucasian, saying mostly African Americans. I mean, Adam Thielen's not there anymore, working hard for
that's not a good look.
For a reward from their quarterback. So if you didn't see it, you probably won't see it because it's probably canceled by now.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's canceled. Real quick, on a different note, I find it weird that Quentin Johnson only has 5 targets in 2 games. That's not good for the Chargers. If you're going to spend that draft capital on him, you need.
Well, I know they were planning on kind of easing him in because Josh Palmer is still the wide receiver 3 there.
That's fine, but 5 targets? That seems.
I think that's more of a futures bet on him. Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. They're trying to move forward a little bit. Mike Williams is injured a lot. Maybe he can step in that position. I think it was mostly for a depth. I mean, it sucks to use a first-round pick on that, but it was difficult for them to pass on the talent. You know, if he's the best player on your board, he's the best player on your board, and it's hard to point to a spot on the Chargers roster and say we absolutely need to draft this. You have the pieces there. The coach just sucks, and I hate it because I like Brandon Staley. He's a Vic Fangio protege, and I wanted him to succeed. But it's another defensive head coach that, I mean, fellas, it doesn't work for him. You know, I'm watching in Chicago. Other than Belichick, it's just who else? You know, I mean, the guy in Buffalo, I guess, but his quarterback's incredible. You know, it saves his ass a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just 5 targets for that. Yeah. I mean, 10. Yeah. Okay, I can see that being laying off a little bit, but
yeah, it's tough to see that number for a first round pick for sure. But we'll move on to the Sunday night football game. Ba, 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 ba.
Bum, 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 bum,
Ba, 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 ba.
bum, 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 bum.
All right. That didn't work. Sunday night football, the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. The Raiders are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under in this game is 43. The money line for Pittsburgh is plus 114, and for Las Vegas is minus 135. I'm having a difficult time on this game because I feel like the Raiders aren't good, but they're getting a lot of love, and I don't know if it's just because they're at home. I mean, they're not favored on the money line. The over/under is not very high, and Pittsburgh just coming off an emotional win against Cleveland, a division rival. Give me Pittsburgh plus 2.5, going on the road and beating the Las Vegas Raiders. I just like their defense a whole lot. We'll see how Jimmy Garoppolo does with a little bit of pressure on him. Is Devontae Adams, did he go out for a little bit last week? I thought I saw something pop up on my sleeper app saying he was going to the medical tent. He might be fine. I don't know. But, I mean, even with that, I think Josh Jacobs, Kyle, you're a numbers guy. You've probably got Josh Jacobs' numbers drawn up, but they're not very good this year. So for all those reasons, give me Pittsburgh going in there and leaning on their defense and coming back east with a dub in this game. Take it away, whoever.
I'll go with Pittsburgh as well. I think their offense is better than Vegas's, and their defense is definitely better. So just for those reasons alone, minus 2.5 is not bad. It'd be plus 2.5 for Pittsburgh. So yeah, I'll take them going to Vegas and getting a win and staying overnight.
I think one of the biggest things for me in this game is like Aaron said, this one was kind of hard to decide between. Pittsburgh's offense hasn't looked great this season, and I haven't watched much of Las Vegas. So when I was looking at this game and I was reading today too, and Aaron said, numbers guy, got the stats. Yeah, I do have the stats. Josh Jacobs is averaging 1.6 yards per carry.
Woof.
0.6 per carry. He's got 46 yards rushing on this season, which is not good. Last week against Buffalo, his average yards per carry before contact, so the amount of yards he was getting before he was made with contact from the Bills defense, was negative like 1.5 yards. So he was getting hit in the backfield pretty much every play. And that was Buffalo's defense. Not to take anything away against Buffalo's defense, but that's not Pittsburgh. That's not the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, who have top 5 defense this year, who have top 5 defense every year.
Yeah.
I look at the weapons, and I think that I do think that the Raiders have better weapons. Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow, who I think has one reception this year.
That's crazy.
And then you do have, it's still Josh Jacobs. He was still the leading rusher from last year. And on the other side of the ball, Najee Harris hasn't done crap with it either. That offensive line has been garbage. So you look at Pickett versus Garoppolo, and as I'm sitting here kind of talking, I'm almost talking myself into Vegas. I go back and I look at Pittsburgh's defense, and I look at what they did against the Browns, and I have to ride with Pittsburgh plus 2.5. And I would say that Pittsburgh's going to win this game as well.
Yeah. So we all got Pittsburgh going in there, and go ahead, Cord.
I was saying, I know Pickett ain't done much, but Garoppolo's only had 36 completions for 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. That's nothing to write off about either. And all of that almost goes to Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think Garoppolo's biggest play of the season so far was rushing for a first down in their first game. And they said something, they talked to a receiver or maybe Josh Jacobs after the game, and he was like, yeah, we love to see our quarterback going out there and working for those tough yards and playing hard. But, I mean, we all know Garoppolo has a history of injuries and if Las Vegas has issues up front, which it seems like with those rushing numbers, you got TJ Watt coming off the edge. I mean, yeah, I like that pick, Pittsburgh. Give me them all day.
And I want to go back real quick because Corey kind of gave me a side eye when I said Vegas might have better weapons. Deontay Johnson's on IR right now, so we have to take that into consideration as well. But I'm still riding with Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah, and Pickens still has a big name in Chicago because we went with Brisker over him, and they're not happy about it. But anyway, we'll get into our final game of the week, the Monday Night Football game. The Philadelphia Eagles traveling down to Tampa, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5-point underdogs at home. The over-under in this game is 45.5. The money line for Philly is minus 218, and for Tampa, it's plus 180. Maybe it's a little bit of fool's gold on this as I watch the Bears go down there. I know the Bears are definitely not on the tier that Philly is on. However, we have yet to see it from Philly yet this year. They do have a top 3 offensive line in the league, which helps them, but they did lose the offensive mind in Philadelphia that had Jalen Hurts playing at an MVP level. For that reason, I like Tampa's defense. They blitz you a lot. They keep Baker Mayfield upright on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, we'll see how they do against this D-line because they haven't seen one like this yet this year. They played Minnesota and Chicago. So they have to keep Baker upright and see if he can get the ball out. I like Mike Evans. I mean, he's honestly Hall of Fame numbers. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Mike Evans puts up Hall of Fame numbers if you look at him. For those reasons, give me Tampa plus 5 in this game. Hopefully I can make up some ground on this game because I feel like y'all might go Philly. But give me Tampa at home in the heat. Oh, I guess it's Monday night. You don't have to worry about the heat. But anyway, Tampa at home plus 5. Go ahead, Kyle.
It'll still be hot down there.
It's Tampa. Yeah.
I mean, I know we talked about Tampa and how good Baker's looking and those wide receivers, and we didn't touch on Rachaad White or anything like that. But Rachaad White,
they don't touch on him either.
He's a good receiver out of the backfield. They have a really good defense, but it's still Philadelphia. Philadelphia still made it to the NFC Championship last year. I mean, chalk it up to a slow start, maybe. But the only reason Minnesota covered that spread last week was because of a backdoor cover. And I think that the only opportunity that Tampa has this week at getting that plus 5 is a backdoor cover. And I don't think that they hit it. I'm taking Philadelphia minus 5.
I am also going to take Philadelphia. I think both teams go back to where we think they are. The slow start for Philly gets fixed kind of. And then as much as I love Baker, that kind of gets calmed down a little bit too. Even though it is at the pirate ship, I think Philly's just way better than minus 5.
So you guys don't believe in the Super Bowl hangover the year after the team that loses the Super Bowl typically doesn't do very good at all?
Well, no, I think there was just some new changes in Philly, and with a couple extra players, we've seen what DeAndre Swift did in his second game. Me personally, I think just Philly they're just that good. And I don't see them having that type of hangover, so to speak. And if they did, then it was them being sluggish in their 2-0 start, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Darius Slay will intercept Baker Mayfield at least once in this game.
Well, he'll give you the chances. We had a chance to do it last week and didn't take advantage of it. They will give you chances to win the game.
I can also see Philly trading for Budda Baker in the not so distant future, and because they need help back there, and Arizona is kind of up in the air, so I can see something like that happening soon.
I think a trade for Budda Baker, as much as I'd love to see it, I think with them, I think they readjusted his contract, gave him a little bit more money, so I don't think it's as likely as it was earlier in the offseason, but it could still happen.
Yeah. So are there any games that aren't on our 6-pack challenge that you guys are looking forward to maybe watching this week? Corey, I'll start with you.
I mean,
It was a rough slate of games when I was trying to pick the six out.
It's kind of tough. I actually more or less maybe the Los Angeles at Cincinnati, the other Monday night game, just to kind of see what's going on with the Bengals versus a West Coast team in the NFC. Yeah, maybe Tennessee at Cleveland. See if both of those quarterbacks can fix their stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, I hate that they keep putting 2 Monday night games on and making us choose one or the other.
Yeah, Atlanta at Detroit. That'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, I thought about putting that one on here because I know how much you ride in Detroit this year, and Atlanta is 2-0, correct?
Yes.
So Detroit kind of fell off last week. They lost to Seattle at home. So that'll be interesting to watch for sure. But I'm going to watch it, but the Bears at Kansas City minus 12.5. And as I told you guys before, it feels like Trestman all over again. And when we really realized, all the fans already knew that he had to be gone. But when the Bears finally noticed it, we had, I think, New England and Philly in back-to-back weeks where we gave up 50 burgers. And that's when they finally were like, okay, maybe we should make a change. They still let him finish out the season because that's just what the Bears do. But I think we could see it get out of hand like that. I know they're 12.5, but I could see this being like 42-14. And as much as I love Justin Fields, he says he's going to show it. But I just don't know if there is anything to show. And quietly, Kansas City's defense is pretty nasty this year, guys. This might be Mahomes' best defense he's ever had overall. They got Chris Jones and a bunch of fast dudes around him. That's really what they got, and they just get the job done. I think it gets ugly quick.
Imagine if they gave Patrick Mahomes some weapons on offense. I think there's a few games that stick out to me this week, and not because I think they're going to be good games, but Houston at Jacksonville, Indianapolis at Baltimore, Carolina at Seattle, Chicago at Kansas City, and Dallas at Arizona. Those 5 games to me are pretty much one-sided, I think, especially if Anthony Richardson doesn't play for the Colts, who, as much as Aaron, you probably hate to hear it, has looked good this year.
Yeah, he rushed for 2 touchdowns last week and then went into concussion protocol. The guy's taking hits.
Yeah, he is, and he's got to learn how to take those hits too. Gardner Minshew came in and played well. CJ Stroud quietly has looked really, really good too. He's thrown a lot of passes.
He already has more 300-yard games than Justin Fields in the NFL.
He was my pick out of this draft class. If I had to pick one, I loved CJ, and with especially now he's got Nico, and that is a nice little group right there.
You got Nico, Robert Woods, Tank Dell looked really, really good last week. But I think there's just a lot of one-sided matchups this week. And, I could be wrong on those 5 games, and we could have some close ones, Colts versus the Ravens. But that Ravens defense for the past 4 or 5 years has been going up against Lamar Jackson in practice anyway. So they should know how to cover Anthony Richardson if he plays. But I wouldn't be surprised to see those games get ugly.
Carolina traveling to Seattle is interesting because it'll be interesting to see how Bryce Young reacts to the crowd. Now, college football, the crowds are insane in the SEC, as you know, Corey, and myself, season ticket holders for Kentucky, who is probably one of the lower as far as fan bases and how insane they are and loud in the field. But Seattle's a different animal. Up until recently, when Arrowhead kind of passed them as far as decibels in the stadium, that was one of the craziest ones. So it'll be interesting to see how Bryce Young reacts to the 12th man up there in Seattle. But yeah, it could get out of hand. Seattle's defense. Remember, I told you guys the Bears give up so many third downs. Statistically, Seattle is the only team that gives up more third downs percentage-wise than the Bears defense this year. So I don't know about it getting out of hand, but I do think home field advantage helps Seattle out a whole lot in that game.
Real quick on these picks, We had 3, all of us did, and then me and Kyle are the same on the rest of the 3, and Aaron's different. So there'll be 3 games between you 2 at least that are changed. For sure.
So you and I picked all sticks the same this week, Corey?
Yep. So you join the
winning. It's not gonna be a good week for you then. I can tell you.
Pay myself
right now.
Maybe it'll be a great week for you guys, and I'll come in here next week.
There you go. So there'll be another big shakeup one way or the other.
So we should have at least a 1-game difference, Aaron, heading into next week. Then
that'll be fun. Yeah, the 6-pack challenges. I mean, Corey's really got the lead, so it really just comes down to who's buying the beers at the end of the year.
It's early, boys.
He's got a hot start. It doesn't mean that we can't. It's a long season, Aaron. We got a long.
It is a long season. Injuries,
a lot
happen,
of games,
all kinds of stuff. But we'll come back in here next week and recap everything and get everybody ready for week 4 of the NFL season. Until then, see y'all.